my subscribers in the Midwest. I'm John Feldt, and this is the weekly water outlook for November 25th. Once again, it's been a pretty quiet week across most of the Midwest. I know that we can use quite a bit of rain, and you can see over the last week, most of the area received no rain whatsoever. No rain in Kansas, Nebraska, most of Iowa, and only a lighter amounts over the Dakotas and Minnesota. There's definitely been this trend of more rain east of eastern Iowa, eastern Missouri, and Wisconsin, and a bit lighter rain, quite a bit lighter rain, if any rain at all, over Kansas and Nebraska. The upper plains have also been getting a little bit more rain with these systems racing across from west to east. You can see the North and South Dakota received just about a quarter inch of rain, a few spots a little bit more, a few spots a little bit less. Now, during a normal November, these are how many days of rain that we would expect. It tapers off from west to east, western parts of the Great Plains, about an inch or about 1 day of rain in November, a day or two. And then as we get into the eastern parts, such as Iowa and Minnesota, 3 inches of rain or 4 inches of rain. And what we can see from last week in the percent of normal, most of the region received no rain whatsoever or below normal rainfall. So we're really running below those days of rain, with perhaps the very upper northern tier of the Midwest, which might be a little bit closer to those monthly daily rainfall averages. Now, this week's going to be pretty similar to next week. Early in the week, the jet stream will be digging a bit into the middle part of the nation. It'll be bringing a frontal passage through. End of the week, it moves off to the north. Definitely over the northwest U.S., we're going to continue that entry region of the jet, which will enhance precipitation in the Pacific Northwest. And then, as we've seen over and over again, the northern tier and then into the Great Lakes states will be more active than further south as that jet energy remains to the north. I think from a bigger perspective, we have some very significant changes with that pooling of cooler air. One of the things as we get into winter, I'm going to talk a lot about oscillations. And oscillations are basically imbalances of atmospheric pressure. Atmosphere is always trying to balance itself, so when you get these big balances, usually there's a spilling of cold air or a bulging of warm air to try to equalize. The next pattern change that we're going to see looks significant. It looks like a strong North Atlantic oscillation, or NAO, that's the top graph here, or a strong phase, negative phase of the Arctic oscillation, or AO. And it's significant for a couple reasons. First of all, that it's going to be prolonged. It looks like it's going to extend for at least a week or two, and it also looks like it's going to be very deep or very negative, so the impacts are going to be more reliable. And this is what we would normally see. We would normally see this trough of low pressure digging over the north central U.S., Great Lakes, and the northeast U.S., and then the bulging north of the jet stream over the western U.S. So it looks like a high probability of cold air pushing into primarily eastern and northern parts of the Midwest and Great Plains, and then areas further east. Now, this jet stream won't necessarily be more active once it gets into place, but I do think that it will give a better chance of precipitation, not necessarily heavy precipitation, but it will bring along that jet stream and to the east of it probably a better chance than we've seen in the recent past. Also, with this cold air, it could come in the form of snow, particularly over the northeast U.S. This is the model output showing the next week of precipitation. Like I said, from the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley off to the east, greater chances of rain. Still pretty light over most of the Midwest, and that trend we've seen for a long time now over Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and even North and South Dakota, much lighter amounts. No rain whatsoever, this model is forecasting over large parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and only light amounts of rain even north of that. So it looks like the story for the next week is either going to be light precipitation or none at all. So trends and threats, right now no threats, and the trend for most of the Midwest is going to be well below normal precipitation. Over areas of Kansas and Nebraska, probably only 25% or less rainfall for the week, precipitation for the week, and the drought will persist. A bit more rain up to the north, but it should still average below normal. So the status quo, it looks like pretty much not much change over this week. The story is going to be mainly dry weather, modest precipitation from the eastern parts of Missouri and Iowa east, West of that area, over Kansas and Nebraska, very little rainfall or precipitation. And then developing strong negative NAO or AO into December. I'll be talking a lot about that throughout the week in my blog. I will be also talking about it in my December newsletter and next week as well, because I think that's going to be really the trend, more significant trend that we're going to see as we get into December. If you like this recording, please consider subscribing. To get more information, I'm going to be adding some new services quite soon, and pass it along to others that might be interested. Thank you very much.